Mothers. Horror, strangeness, and fear have always been part of literature. Humans love their monsters. For evidence, look back, 4,000 years, give or take, to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Or consider that the Inferno section of Dante's Divine Comedy is by far the most popular among readers, thanks to the descent into hell. Shakespeare wrote about ghosts and witches, and his Titus Andronicus, first performed in 1594, is one of the bloodiest and most violent plays of his career, maybe even the bloodiest play in European history, until the Grand Guignol, that is. Clearly, audiences have always craved horror. But like all fiction, horror and other types of so-called weird fiction have ebbed and flowed in popularity, as well as changed forms throughout history. So, where did it all begin? There's a strong argument that horror as it exists in the 21st century evolved from the Gothic novel, a literary style fashionable in England in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Gothic fiction started with Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto, published in 1765. The novel tells of a royal wedding that goes very, very wrong. Manfred, owner of the titular castle, is obsessed with marrying his son to a beautiful princess, Isabella, in order to continue his family line and secure wealth. The only problem? His son Conrad is rather sickly and not a great prince at all. Before Conrad can marry Isabella, he is crushed to death by a giant helmet. The castle, you see, is cursed by a statue of a knight that has come to life and is causing general chaos. Manfred is so fixated on perpetuating his family name that he decides to marry Isabella himself. Not even his pesky wife can get in the way of his plans. But he thinks Isabella is in love with the mysterious Theodore, who actually loves Manfred's daughter, Matilda. Confused? So is Manfred, and he kills his own daughter thinking that she is Isabella. Things go downhill from there, with plenty of mistaken identities and lots of knives that are meant for one person but end up in someone else's heart. As nuptial celebrations go, the book makes the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones seem not so bad. Walpole's novel became so popular that it created a genre called the Gothic, named for the architecture found in so many of these books. And in the following decades, the new genre's popularity would shoot through the roof, primarily due to the work of women writers. Gothic fiction might never have taken off without Anne Radcliffe, the English author who published The Romance of the Forest, T. Hookham and Carpenter, 1791, The Mysteries of Udolpho, G. and J. Robinson, 1794, The Italian, Cadell and Davies, 1797, and other novels. Radcliffe's writing popularized the genre, but truth be told, her books seem tame compared to works that came after. They're more like cozy mysteries than eerie horror stories. Her spooky and dark castles played on the imagination without delivering actual ghosts. An army of women writers followed Radcliffe, using the Gothic formula she'd developed to explore their own bloodier, more violent, and fantastic nightmares. These women, whom you're about to meet, in turn inspired generations of authors and filmmakers, including those creating horror stories today. Without Radcliffe and her successors, we wouldn't have the 1977 nightmarish fairy tale film Suspiria, or its 2018 remake. Likewise, the quiet but brooding domestic horror of Daphne du Maurier or Shirley Jackson. The women who put pen to paper back at the beginning of horror and weird fiction, even before such terms were used, were unafraid to try new things, to take their stories into unexplored territory, and in doing so, they inspired and enabled writers for centuries to come. Spotting the Gothic. Here's a handy checklist of attributes that indicate you're reading a Gothic novel. A virtuous young woman who's prone to quoting poetry and/or singing music while deep in the woods, not unlike Snow White, and equally prone